What's going on, guys? Randall here from Off the Brain TV, bringing you another video, and this is the Acer Predator X34. If you've been out of the loop a little bit lately, Acer and Asus both announced not too long ago that they'd be releasing a QHD ultra-wide IPS monitor with G-Sync technology. And it was supposed to be released at 75 Hz, but it wasn't a little later after that they actually announced that it would be 100 Hz overclockable. This was a pretty big deal, as there's a lot of fans of higher refresh rate panels in the gaming community, especially those in the competitive circle. Now, will having a higher refresh rate panel suddenly make you an amazing gamer or amazing player at your favorite shooter? Probably not, but making the jump from 60 to 100 Hz sure looks pretty, no matter what level of gamer you are. Accompanied with the color accuracy and viewing angles, which is more important than you think, with IPS, it definitely puts the icing on the cake. And yes, while Acer's 16:9 IPS 144 Hz panel has a higher refresh rate, there isn't much of a viewable difference, and it takes much more horsepower to drive 144 frames per second with max settings at 1440p, making 100 Hz more feasible. Well, sort of. While the X34 is also 1440p, the 21:9 aspect ratio makes the resolution 3440 by 1440, which is quite close to 4K. It's still going to take a pretty beefy graphics card to stay steady at that 100 frames per second. Plus, if you want to make sure it's G-Sync capable, according to the first page of the manual, the monitor only supports G-Sync at 100 Hz on GTX 960 Turbo graphics cards and later. But since the monitor is a whopping $1,300 at the time of this video, if you're seriously considering picking it up, I'd assume you already invested a decent amount into your rig. If not, consider yourself warned, as some people can get it running with a GTX 770, but I've heard some complaints on the overclock forums. More about the complaints in a bit. In my setup, I'm driving it with an NVIDIA GTX 980 Ti, and it handles it perfectly, playing most games at max graphics, and when games like Diablo 3 support the aspect ratio, the 100 frames per second smoothed out by the G-Sync spoils you to the point where I will never go back to 60 Hz. However, not everyone's experience is going to be the same when viewing higher refresh rate panels, so opinions are subjective and will definitely vary. The monitor itself features a thin bezel, a small but surprisingly effective curve, a glossy back with an Acer logo, and a completely metal stand, which could likely hold much more weight than the display itself, being very high quality. It also has a cool underglow that can be customized. It's a bit gimmicky, but it's fun to play with and can add a nice touch to your setup. I happen to really like the design with a few caveats. They could have done without the speaker on the bottom to lower the cost, as I doubt anyone buying this beast would need it, and the glossy back is a fingerprint and dust magnet. Matte would have been a much better choice, but the gloss does give it a higher quality look, but who looks at the back of the panel anyway? Also, the controls can be a bit of a pain, but I appreciate them hiding the buttons to maintain a clean front. However, a joystick like on the Samsung TVs would have been much more appropriate. As for using the buttons to operate the UI, you have your typical picture presets and settings, game mode settings and presets which you can configure, and you need it to actually activate the G-Sync module. You need to be in game mode. You also access the overclocking from here, and if you're one of the lucky ones such as myself who got a completely working monitor, you can just set it and forget it. Now, as for not working monitors, there have been numerous reports of buyers receiving panels that will not work overclocked higher than 90 Hz, flickering in game, scan lines, waking from sleep issues, major backlight bleed, but not to be confused with IPS glow, and color bands. I will link the thread in the description so you can see if yours has any of these issues for RMA. But I can only review my monitor and my experience, and I have fortunately not experienced any of these issues. I'm not saying they don't exist, as there is plenty of proof that they do, don't get me wrong. But other than mentioning the issues, I can't let it affect my review. In fact, running the popular G-Sync Pendulum demo included with NVIDIA driver installations runs extremely smoothly, even at 100 frames per second with no scan lines or bands. And it really shows off how effective G-Sync is. I also have extremely minimal backlight bleed with some slightly visible in the top corners, but it's not visible while viewing content and almost non-existent IPS glow. The aspect ratio is amazing when watching movies or trailers that have not been converted to 16:9, and removing those black bars gives a more immersive experience. Editing and workflow on the monitor is extremely intuitive, and given it's not 4K but is 36 inches, there is no worry about Windows' awful DPI scaling, as everything in your editing suite is clearly legible, giving you plenty of workspace. However, watching 16:9 content such as YouTube will suffer from the black bars on the sides, turning it into roughly a 27-inch monitor. But when you're able to take advantage of the native aspect ratio, it makes it all worth it. I don't think I could ever go back to even a dual monitor setup. This really is 2 monitors in one with enough bells and whistles to take your gaming and multimedia experience to the next level. So if you ask me for a recommendation on a monitor for either gaming or gaming and workflow, you had about $1,300 and a G-Sync capable card with Windows, of course, I would not hesitate to recommend this monitor because the experience for me has been fantastic. Also, if you do run into any issues with your monitor, you can always RMA it, but there are talks and people do want to wait for the ASUS monitor, but if you think they're going to be the end-all be-all, I really think you're going to be mistaken, and you're going to waste your time. This is a new technology, and any new product, even if it's not a new technology, you are going to run into some issues. Thankfully, Acer is responding and they are RMAing the monitors. However, there have been some reports of running into trouble when their monitor doesn't overclock past 90 because it's not guaranteed to overclock up to 100 Hertz. But still, if you have no issues with your monitor and you're able to get it to 90 Hertz and not 100, there really isn't any visible difference. I've tried it myself. However, it's debatable or it's subjective whether you think that's worth it to return it or to exchange it. If you buy it from Newegg or a place that has a good 30-day return policy, I'm sure they'll let you get your money back. So again, I don't recommend waiting for ASUS if you want to grab this monitor because it is simply stunning, especially if it's working properly. So that's about it, guys. I really hope you liked my review of this beast. I really love the way it's added to my setup, and I'm going to be loving working and editing these videos on there as well. And also remember, I did not get paid by Acer at all to do this. I certainly don't have enough subscribers, unfortunately, yet to be given a monitor of this size, so don't think I was paid to do this review. This is purely just my opinion, and I purchased this monitor with my own hard-earned cash. So again, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, and if it's your first time here, hit that red subscribe button, and as always, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace!